Hello and welcome to another Best Junglers episode, this one for patch 13.3. After not really even having a 13.2 patch, we're here with absolutely huge changes. Except for some changes which are not changes and they're exactly the same. I think you know which champion I'm talking about, and he may or may not be an evil tree. That being said, we have nerfs to Amumu and Zac. Did they do anything? We also have buffs to Lee Sin. Did they do things? Changes to Umbral Glaive and other assorted goodness has happened in this patch. We will go over the best junglers to play for every single MMR from low to high, as well as overall. And don't forget, if you want the best builds, runes, and all the live action tips you might need to climb, Mobalytics is here for you. Much like our redesigned jungle, Mobalytics app has been redesigned to give you all of the best information that you need to thrive before, during, and after game. While Riot did remove scouting, Champ Select has been redesigned to give you all of the information on the champions on your team and on the enemy team so you can know which team is stronger, along with gold leads and insane informational trackers in the overlay. You can keep track of your progress in-game to help you hit the targets you need to win. The power spike notifications in-game will mean you never have to worry about messing up again. Leona 6, Roman gank it. Nocturne 6, don't over push and dive. And so you know ADCs need this, but you know what? They're not gonna use it, which means you can use it and then counter gank and obliterate the enemy jungler. The brand new Mobalytics app has everything you need to improve in Season 13 League of Legends. Click the link in the description below to download and become Ascended. Alright, and onto the S tier page. Hey look, it's Maokai. He is number 1. They have decided, and they being Riot, that this is a healthy win rate with a healthy play rate and a healthy ban rate and does not need to be nerfed at all. It's a little bit weird to me considering they've gutted Mundo, made him forgotten, and gutted Volibear and made him useless and forgotten. It's weird how this happens, how certain champions can just exist in this perpetual state. But hey, there is Maokai, Phase Rush, AP, Demonic's Embrace, Radiant Virtue, that is now even better on tanks, I guess. It is undeniably a hard ganking meta, and the jungle changes experience-wise and gold-wise have not done much to change that. You will continue to thrive with almost 100% success rate guaranteed on those ganks because of the copious amounts of CC and of course percentage max HP damage. Not to mention his teamfighting prowess and scaling. Essentially, as long as you go in, unload yourself of all your sap, phase rush around, come back in with your haste cooldowns, you can be building full AP or some sort of hybrid. Either way, you are destroying absolutely everything, and you have the benefit of Giga Vision through the saplings. And while some people think, hey, it's a hard ganking meta, you cannot sequence, Udio is here to say, well, actually you can, you just have to be able to, build Demonic's Embrace into some sort of tanky violation of nature. At the same time, the Prowler's Claw Q nerfs did a lot to kind of stymie that build. However, it's still going around a little bit, but don't do it. Just go Demonics with your tank itemization. It's really unstoppable, and his benefit is that he can really gank very well with his E, of course. He has the slows, of course. He has percentage max HP damage, of course. But most importantly, he is one of the few champions that can run in and out of jungles, counter jungling and objectifying the objectives while sort of, letting the gankers do their thing. Great counter ganking, great at sequencing, great at splitting, great at disruption. He does everything you need to carry in Season 13, and that has not changed. Although the Spider Queen went from, this champion's kind of strong hidden OP to good grief, it's meta and even people in gold can play it. No offense, my friends, but this champion is more or less a higher skill cap champion. So when it performs really well in mid and low MMRs, you know it's kinda strong. The fusion with Night Harvester Gaming and Dark Harvest scaling, along with once more tower diving, ganking, fisting, and being the beneficiary to the new jungle pets means that if she has to clear a red side quadrant, she can. While all the rest of the foolish champions are crying at Riot for the nerf to the gold and the treats, and the buff to the experience that they're not getting because they're ganking, and the buff to the tower damage that they're giving out early. Elise says, well, you don't have repel? Yeah. Turns out that's a pretty good ability where you don't really care about tower damage. Who knew? Next up, we have Silas. Silas, the master of angst and chains, I suppose. Basically, this champion is still one of the highest picked ban champions in high elo and across the board for general population, not only because he is fun to play, but because he is so damn ridiculous with his AP ratios when he gets Night Harvester. A dude can be 3, 4, and 1, dude can be 0, 5, and 2. Soon as he gets Night Harvester, stuff's happening. And he's stealing your ultimate, and then he's winning the game. So while his win rate isn't so good, you look at it, you're like 48, 49% win rate. That's because he really doesn't have that fullback potential that a lot of junglers have, and his first clear isn't really potent, shall we say. Elise, on the other hand, can basically very easily do any sort of 3 camper, and while Silas can too, it just isn't as fast, it just isn't as healthy, and obviously that relies a little bit on risk-taking, high-risk plays, a lot of spam ganking, and as such, as long as you execute that well, you will snowball and you can still be useful to your team. By 1v9ing and killing their whole team when your team dies. Yeah, that's what Silas does. Next up, we have the Time Lord. I've moved him down a few notches because those above him really do represent a lot of the junglers, most of the junglers you most likely are seeing in your games. You're most likely banning one of the 4 above him, and no one's banning Echo. You don't need to ban Echo, but he has been a 1v9 carry jungler for a few months, really strong. He's not really going to be banned out that much. People will always underestimate his damage. They will always basically forget that he's going to do what he does, which is stun you for 2.25 seconds. And that's only if you're a squishy, because otherwise he's just flashing with his rocket belt and Eing onto you, hitting his Q and an auto attack or two, and off he goes at light speed while you just are left to die. The W is really just for those outplays, isn't it? And of course the reset button, so everything in his kit allows him to thrive. He can full clear now, get level 4 before anyone else, and on a snowballing assassin champion that thrives on, let's see, gold and experience advantages to take over games, when you can full clear faster than most, healthier than most, and you can take Dark Harvest and scale faster than them, you are probably going to be an S-tier jungler. Next up, we have the Amumu, who could be higher depending on your rank in MMR, but basically I've been saying for a while, Amumu is strong. Any solo carry jungle tier list, I said, this is a solo carry jungler for low elo. Why? Conqueror, Demonic's Embrace. You are a true damage doing, resistance stacking, percentage max HP, thriving CC bot doomsdayer for enemy teams. You've also got double Q now, which means you can miss one just to gap close on a minion and then have the other one for the backup. You can miss one as they dash and then hit the next one because they no longer have a dash. He is a double flash dash burning ganker who can also full clear farm safely without being punished by most MMRs. Couple that with your unholy tankiness and unholy damage, those tears are more like tears of acid rain as they fall upon the wounded petals of your heart as you have to say, wow, I lost to an Amumu. Next up we have Zac, and you're saying, well, didn't they nerf Amumu? Yeah, exactly. That wasn't a nerf, it doesn't do anything. Didn't they nerf Zac? Yeah, that wasn't a nerf. It doesn't do anything. Although for Zac, the win rate did dip a little bit, but it's not gonna do anything. Demonic's Embrace, Radiant Virtue, off you go. CC, bot, damage, disruption. Don't really care if my damage was nerfed a little bit. He should be nerfed more from the damage department, but Zac is a disruptor, ganker, teamfighter, and assassinator of enemy ADCs who overpush and die because they don't seem to figure out how to learn to position relevant to vision lines. I don't know how it's been 10 years and you still can't do this. Just like top laner Zaito, 2-minute 45 release gank. It is what it is. And if covering ADCs in green slime wasn't your thing, maybe you like covering them in feces, because that's what Wukong does. Now, obviously the ganking, skirmishing, fisting, that kind of meta, that's always going to suit those with a lot of base AD and high early to mid game ratios. As such, his disruption in the mid game is absolutely profound. The damage and the armor shredding helps him deal with these sort of tanky monstrosities who are building a little bit of that Jack show and Radiant Virtue. So they build armor, you shred the armor, you knock him down. You have mobility, you have deception, you have decent clearing, although it's not that great. You have to decide when you're going to use that warrior trickster, the W, to either farm or to set yourself up for rotations and ganks. And if you use it for the engage, you're not going to have it for the disengage. So you better know how to go in and exactly what kind of poop you have to fling. So make sure your diet is sound, make sure your game plan is good, and you will 100% ensure armor shredding, high fiber poop flinging towards your enemy teams. Next up we have Vi, and yes, her win rate has gone down a little bit, but I see no reason why she shouldn't be in this tier list. Yeah, she's not really S tier for solo queue. Yes, for some strange reason we are praising pros and high elos for not building Kempang Chainsword. I said 8 months ago, stop building and rushing Kempang Chainsword, go Black Cleaver, build something else. No one seems to listen to this logic and they keep building Kempang Chainsword. Stop it. Just stop it. It's trash. You don't need it. It's trash. Build Black Cleaver. It's goated. It's OP. They buffed it for no reason. Slap it with a Divine Sundra or Radiant Virtue and you will dominate every single game. 3 quadrant ganks, 3 camp ganks, little bit of farming, percentage HP damage, you got yourself a shield, a lockdown ultimate for those pesky Zeries that are coming back in the meta. What more do you want to climb? You don't need it. It's there. It does dragons and objectives as well. Next up is the beautiful and the lovely Evelynn. While it is a ganking meta, Evelynn is one of those that likes to sequence and get 6. However, ever since they gave us that wonderful Q quality of life buff like 2 years ago now, that's meant she can actually go ahead and have decent skirmishing in rivers, in ganks. And while you're not going to run around and counter gank and do level 4 fistings, you are at least priming yourself for some sort of ganks, some sort of crowd control, getting that early 6, and then yes, while we might have a high CSPM early, you can detach once you've got the rocker belt and the death cap, and you basically can just cheese, gank, fight, annihilate, and don't let those other gankers get a foot set in the game, because once they've spent all their time ganking lanes, you just show up at level 9, 10, 11 and say, yuck, I don't care that you have the lead. I'm here now, I'm invisible, you cannot see me, you die, thanks for the lead. Next up we have Fiddlesticks, who kind of operates the same way and obviously has that surprise ultimate, and I did put out a short on this channel. That's right, I put out shorts. I don't want to spam you so I don't notify you, but pay attention to the shorts, nice little tips. The Fiddlesticks clear 259 from a Chinese super server Giga Brain Fiddlesticks main has figured out how to co-join the camps once more, so double camping can be done. Fast clearing, 20 seconds tempo advantage, free crab, free ganks, free scaling. This is still and always will be one of the best champions to one trick. Riot love him, he will always be good in the meta, no one ever thinks about him, but if you execute properly, 3 wins it shall be. Hello Jarvan, welcome back you son of a bitch. He's got a punchable face, he's got an annoying voice, and his shoulder pads are way too big. But that doesn't detract from the fact that they made his W shield, the thing that was kinda basically useless for a long time, go down on cooldown, and they gave it a bonus AD ratio, so now you can build cool items like Black Cleaver and, you know, get a bigger shield. And also the shield duration in terms of duration was nerfed a second to compensate, but when it's up for 4 seconds, that's kinda big. They also gave him a little bit of armor early to help him sustain through those really rough early clears as he goes and goon squads your bottom lane level 2 or level 3. Next up we have Nunu and William because, you know, if his name's Willem, no one knows. They always forget about him. They just say Nunu. Poor little guy, or poor big guy as it were. Either way, it's a ganking meta, so patrol the rivers, gank the lanes, spam gank bottom lane. Enemy can do nothing about it because now you amp up your ADC who's juiced and fed, and obviously because you are smart as Nunu, you know how to peel, right? You know how to use your ult correct, you know how to use the champion, cool. CC lockdown, win the game. Next up we have Diana, and I basically said, look, the bottom of this list, it's looking kind of weird. You could put so many things here. What do I choose to put? I chose to put something that is still strong. I chose to put something that can still have a very high impact on the meta when used correctly. Emphasis on correctly. Building correctly, still getting those 3-2-1 rule ganks. You can still get 6 ganks pre 12 minutes, play around your ultimate, play around your sequencing, counter jungle effectively, and you will end up in a position to carry games. Now, if you don't know how to team fight with her, that's a separate matter, especially when you're going proto belt. But as long as you do that correctly, Diana will still sequence, be ahead. Next up, we have the Lee Sin. As a side note, you also could have put Kayn instead of Diana, but that depends really on the Kayn. Anyway, back to Lee Sin. They buffed his Q80 ratio because he needs more damage. And then instead, they decreased his base damage on the E, but also shifted the way it scales. Instead of bonus AD, it's now total AD. That means it's not just the AD you buy for itemization, it's the AD you have as a base level and get as you level up in the game, plus the AD. So, obviously if you give high base damage to something like that, it would be kind of busted and broken. So we nerfed this, give him the total AD over bonus AD. We increase the slow by 20% at max rank. That means we not only get even more damage on that E, we get more slows, we get more damage on the Q. Our utility has also increased. So my friends, get ganking, get snowballing, get quadrant clearing, and of course, this is the only champion other than Vi can say this literally, go ahead and fist the enemy junglers. And finally, we have Shaco or Shako. Now, this is not because he's necessarily very good in the meta. This is because if you put in the time to learn the champion, you look at the win rates, you're like, those are pretty good win rates. They gave us some AD buffs that allows that build variant to work pretty well. We know we obviously have the AP build variants that also work pretty well. I guess it's just a skill issue on whether you're good on the champion or not. He's not an objectively S-tier jungler by any stretch of the imagination, but he's a best jungler in the best hands who understand clown business. I put it to you. Then we are onto the low elo page, and look very closely at the list here. You will see the Maokai, obviously, the Eternal, the Amumu, the Mordekaiser. Brazil is still super strong. Yeet them, put them there, and keep them there. Zac OP, Udyr, Warwick is really good. Nocturne still works down here and thrives. There is no Master Yi. Master Yi is not enjoying the copious amounts of CC and damage that exists in the meta, and thus his win rate has fallen. All praise low elo, for we have a patch without Master Yi in this section. But we have obviously the Maokai and Amumu, so sorry for that. Finally, we have the high elo page, and again Maokai and Udyr. But the added addition of having Lee Sin significantly higher ranked, the added addition of having Nidalee, because Nidalee is still good. The people who say Nidalee is not good are people that are not good with Nidalee. I go watch Korea, I just did in my bootcamp a whole Nidalee expose. These people are amazing on this champion, they make it work so damn well, and a play rate, ban rate, and presence rate, those are pretty good also. She is great in high elo if you can play it. If you cannot, play one of the other things on this list. Likewise for Rengar, super strong. Really like the data that I'm seeing from the one tricks and the mains. However, please, you have to be part of the life. No casuals allowed or you will make the win rate go down. Actually do that so we don't get nerfed. But the champion isn't some sort of meta dominant cat, you know, it's still something that has downsides and weak sides, but when played properly in relation to the meta, has power. But as always in high elo, you can play whatever the hell you want, like the Kindred. Kindred's win rate in terms of the meta, the new ADC itemization, that's a bit in flux at the moment. The champion is still 1v9, still great to main. No stress there, you can carry on playing them. But the issue is obviously the win rate, the data against the matchups are not looking as good. And obviously a buffed Lee Sin means you ult, he kicks you, he kills you. It is what it is. And that you have it all the best junglers that you could want for this particular patch 13.3. Hopefully the meta stabilizes a little bit. Otherwise, I will see you in 2 weeks for another edition of the best junglers. Don't forget, if you really want to understand how to maximize your ganking potential in the 3-2-1 jungle rule, click the video in the box in the top right.